Welcome to FIT CHAT CHIT CHAT. I'm your hostess, Devondrea Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist, better known as the FIT therapist, founder, owner, and client of Finding Inner Transformation, where we believe a fit mindset is more than the physical, but it is mental, emotional, most importantly, it is spiritual. I'm happy for today's guest. I will let them introduce themselves in a minute, but first I want to say if you are joining us live, please put your comments, your questions, and feedback in the comment section, and we'll make sure we get to you. If you're watching this in the recording, we also ask you to put your comments, your feedback, and your questions in the chat, and we will get back to you. So we are here today to honor, to bring awareness, and to celebrate Black Maternal Health Week. Started April 11th and it will run through the 17th. And I thought, what better way to honor it other than to bring someone who is a new mom and her doula to talk about their experience. So without further ado, I want to thank my guests for joining me, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. First and foremost, let's introduce the mommy, the new mom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Renisha Slack. I'm 24. I just had my baby. She's 6 weeks, Nova. And I had her on March 1st. I'm from Louisiana. I'm in the military. I've been in the military going on 6 years now. And that is a little bit about me.
Thank you, Miss Renisha.
Hello, I am Shonda Jackson. I am a certified doula. I consider myself a maternal wellness coach. I have been a certified doula for 2 years now. Coming up on my anniversary, 2 years. So I believe in whole maternal wellness, not just a healthy delivery, but healthy mommy, healthy baby from beginning and from then on. So glad to be here today.
Thank you, ladies. So just a little bit of background. Shonda and I have been doing some maternal mental health awareness, I would say probably more recently. And it's interesting because we were asked to do a maternal mental health chat with NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, last year, and it just came up, and just bringing awareness. So when we talk about Black maternal health, we're talking about mental health, physical health, emotional, and spiritual health, because as Shonda said, it's kind of it's this whole person approach.
Yes.
And so I wanted to be able to kind of ask the questions. First, I really want to ask Renisha about new mommyhood. Just in this moment, before we get on your journey up into mommyhood, how was it? How is it for you right now, currently being how many postpartum?
6 weeks.
Y'all, 6 weeks. I got socks that need to be washed longer than that. Okay, 6 weeks. So please tell us how it is right now, currently in new mommyhood.
Right now, currently, it is it's very rewarding. It's very tiring, honestly. I actually went to out to eat today and trying to get her to stay in the stroller while me and my husband eat and stuff. Like, we're around other people, but it's just so different than whenever it was just he and I. And it's just, like I said, it's just so rewarding because now she want to start yelling, like talking, not just her little crying. And so it's just been just so different. Every day is just different with her. Like, today was a different day than yesterday. So it's just changing rapidly.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like every day is a new gift, and sometimes there's some gifts you rather take back to the store. I mean, we get to keep it real on FIT CHAT CHIT CHAT. I love the babies. I love the babies, but we also gonna keep it real on here. And so we just we thank you for just recognizing. And there's some other moms that are out there. There's like, child, right? They recognize that. And 6 weeks versus 6 days old is a whole different language. And so, Shonda, I'm going to ask you, being a doula and a maternal wellness coach. I love that. Maternal, come on, listen. I love that, right? Let me give that some snaps because we're talking about that's what we're really talking about is wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're in a stage in our society, in our nation that, we want to hear about wellness. We don't want to hear about the illness. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we think about just even language and how we talk about maternal health, we are talking about the wellness approach to it. And so you've been a doula almost 2 years or 2 years now. What made you want to become a doula?
Um, at first it was just I say something to do, something else to do, an extra source of income. But I can honestly say that God works in the ways that don't make sense to us, but He knows what He has planned, because I've always felt like my ministry is to help and to lead or support women. And so, what better way to do that, than to be with them in one of their most vulnerable, monumental moments in their life, which is to give birth to a child. And so my approach to it is to just not look at it as, okay, I'm gonna make sure she's supported while she has this baby, and then, cut my check and thank you for your services. It's more so, what can we address to help you have a happy life from now on?
Yeah.
What physical ailments that you have that not only affect your pregnancy but may affect your ability to parent? What emotional or mental um, traumas or experiences that you have that can hinder your ability to just love on your baby the way you want to?
Mhm.
Um, so those types of challenges and experiences push me to do this more. It's made me cut back on the number of clients I see at a time so that I'm
Mhm.
able to be more personable with my clients. Um, a lot of times my clients, after their contract is up, become friends because um, I want to be able to connect with them in a way that doesn't just serve them in that moment, but serves them for the rest of their lives. So,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We're talking about quality of care. I don't think that you can talk about wellness without really talking about quality of care.
mm-hmm.
I think that is what really brings us to our topic today about why Black maternal health. And some people will probably question that, right? Why not all health matters, right?
Yes.
Why not all maternal beings? And, stats don't lie. We're 3 times more likely to die of pregnancy complication than white women. And even saying that out loud kind of sends this vibration through my back about like, why is that happening? And especially more so when you're talking about it has nothing to do with education and income. Because if it was about income, then we could say it's accessibility issues, right? We could say it's just
Mm-hmm.
because the Black women that are dying either during birthing or right after is because of resources, but they're saying not so, right? The CDC is saying that.
Well,
Oh.
it well, if it was a resource and income situation, we wouldn't have stories like Serena Williams.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have stories like the young woman. She was actually a doctor herself, and her her childbirth ended up having fatal outcomes. So it's definitely not an issue of income or resources. I mean, the numbers show that although mortality rates have increased over the years for all races, if you could see the bar graph for that, it would break your heart, because where there's this slight increase, a small percentage for white women and even women with Hispanic background, even Native American women. If you look at the numbers for Black women, it triples.
Mm-hmm.
It triples, and that's not just the we're 3 times more likely. That's the it's gotten worse for us over the
Mm-hmm.
years, and
Mm-hmm.
so as heartbreaking as that is, was even more crippling for that is that we don't have enough people willing to educate Black women and to um, not only educate them, but support them. I mean, a lot of times you get people that are hands off and they're like, it's not my business. Or you have people that are like, well, that's the doctor, just go with it.
Mhm.
When sometimes I say all the time, hear her.
Mhm.
Hear her. Just listen. Just listen to what she's saying. Help her make sense of what she's feeling. And if there's not a logical response to that, then help her understand why what she's feeling isn't logical, isn't actual, isn't reality. So
Sure.
it gets deep.
Yes, yes. And we're going to talk about that definitely more importantly. And thank you, Miss Khadijah. Shonda, love the people. You got some support here too, Renisha. So that's awesome. Kendallin is definitely here to support you. And so, Renisha, what made you pick a doula? Let me just say this, because you younger than me. Okay, she could be my child, y'all. I did not ever hear about a doula, and my youngest is 16. And I had a midwife experience at the last one. Like I knew I wanted something different. However, I did not know about a doula. So, what made you pick having a doula as part of your birthing experience and pre-birthing experience?
So actually, I didn't really know much about a doula really until like I joined our church, which was like this time last year. And so like the first time I actually physically went to the church, everybody just kept talking to me like, "Oh, this person's a doula. This person's a doula." We had like 4 or 5 doulas at our church, and I'm over here like, "What is that?" And so like they're explaining this to me, which like Shonda said, the Lord worked in mysterious ways because I got to the church in April and found out I was pregnant in like June. So it was and got married in between all of that too. So it was just really, it was really like I can honestly say that was really nothing but God. Because honestly, I didn't even know Shonda at all. I didn't even know her. I was just like, yeah, I want her to be my doula. Even though like I had all they had told me all of these names. Shonda was the only one that I was like, yeah, no, I just want her. And so like I really can't say that it was a specific thing or I did all of this research because I honestly didn't. But I also think kind of like with the generations, especially my generation, we're just kind of like more in tune as far as like knowing what these things are and learning how to advocate for ourselves because we're kind of tired of like the generational curses in a sense. Like I'm praying that this is just the beginning and that my children's children, it will be a maternal health month, maternal health, whatever. So it won't just be a week for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And TT says hello. And Nadia, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for being on. And definitely, if you have any specific questions for Shonda Renisha, put it in the chat. So earlier part of this year, I had the opportunity to sit with the American Heart Association and the community health systems collaborated and did this maternal health awareness. And there is a maternal health awareness month or week. I could be wrong. But anyway, we hosted it and they had a dietitian on there and a couple of, one was a cardiovascular surgeon and the other one was a family practitioner and myself representing maternal mental health, because it really is all those things when we think about maternal health. And something Shonda said that I wanted to go back to was, you know, if you've had these experiences of trauma, and we can go ahead and make the assumption that African Americans have trauma, racial, generational, that gets transmitted generationally. And just as Shonda and I do host a training where we talk about trauma as it relates to pregnancy and pre-pregnancy, in particular, that just as you can pass down brown eyes and blue eyes and brown hair and all of these things, you can also pass down trauma. And so if this is the case, and we're talking about epigenetics where things are getting passed down kind of genetically, we can then say there's a layer that African American mamas are already coming in with. And let's not forget about the papas, right? Because we're swirling DNA, y'all. And even though we are highlighting maternal health, Black maternal health to be very specific, we know that men are also having their own experiences, even hormonally, just being highly connected to the mom. And so I love the fact about what doulas do represent. I love the fact that it is about support. It is about listening, it is about being there, because not all moms, and especially when we're talking about the African American community, we're talking about a lot of single momhood. And so, with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, that may not be Renisha's case necessarily, but I will say that is single motherhood in the Black community has a very high prevalence. And so, Miss Doula, Shonda, talk to me a little bit about what it was like when Renisha said, "Hey, I want you to be your your doula," and she didn't know anything. Thank you, Kendallin. Yes, May is maternal mental health. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I was first approached by her mother-in-law, by her husband's mom,
Okay.
and she was like, "Are you a doula?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Oh, praise God." So I was like, "First lady, I know you don't need a doula. So who you asking for?"
Okay.
But I wasn't gonna say nothing. I've learned to just wait and,
Mhm.
and sit. And so we were actually at a marriage conference, and Renisha and Joshua came to me and said, "We would like for you to be our doula." And I was blown away. I was so excited because I mean, they're a young family, it's their first child, and I get really excited about supporting the family dynamic.
Mhm.
Um, I've experienced a time where I had to be a single mother. Um, and so I take my hat off to anybody who has had to raise, birth, go through pregnancy by themselves. Um, and so when I see that there's a couple, especially if it's a married couple, I get excited because we as Black families are not depicted that way very often. And it's something that I feel is very sacred and essential to the growth of our communities in a healthy way. And so that just added to the excitement that it was going to be this young couple with their first baby, and they're very spiritually grounded. And just all these little elements that made it so exciting for me because I believe in helping them work together through this to support each other. Um, don't get me wrong, a doula is, in layman's terms, a woman's supporter. But if my contract is up and your husband's still there and he don't know how to support you, what have I really done
Mm.
other than been a crutch?
Mhm.
Other than just being a stand-in. And so now you still need support. That need for support doesn't just stop because your contract with me is up. You still need support. And so I like to be able to um, mediate and kind of um, interpret language between partners so
Mhm.
that one is aware of what the other needs and vice versa. I would never encourage a man to, hey, come hold her leg and watch if I know he has a weak stomach.
Mhm.
If I know he's an encourager and he's great at motivating her, I'll say, hey, you stand up here near her head, whisper these affirmations in her ear, continue to push her and encourage her so she feels strong. You know, we're going to play to his strengths so that he's still a part of that, so that he's not what TV depicts as standing in the corner with the video camera
Come
that they
on.
don't allow anymore, or
Okay.
just sitting over in the chair kind of lost. Come on, dad, you're going to be active too. And I feel that that's a part of the whole circle, whole wellness for mom.
That's beautiful.
At
That's
the end of the
absolutely
day, they
beautiful.
have each other and they're going to need, it's a full circle aspect. It's not, in order for her to be, and Renisha can tell you, I used to say this all the time, in order for mom to be okay, dad has to be okay. And in order for baby to be okay, mom has to be okay.
Mhm.
And so it all works together. In order for dad to be okay, mom and baby have to be okay.
What I'm hearing, that's beautiful. Thank you. Is relationship. It's almost like an assessment of the strength, because you don't go
Yes.
in knowing dad's an encourager, motivator, or he has a weak stomach.
Yes.
It's something that you view with, the family. And so, Rainisha, Shonda's talking about all of these little gifts and intricate parts of it. How, with your experience, what do you think about what she's saying, and how did that relate to your experience?
Oh, everything she said, it was 100% true. It just made me laugh because she would say like, "Oh, if Dad's an encourager, he'll come by your ear and do all this stuff." But also, if Bob is the type, well, you don't really know until like after, until you like in labor. Okay, all that stuff that I was before, I'm not that. If I'm saying, okay, I'm telling all of them to be quiet. So Dad's over here trying to encourage, and I'm over here silence. I need silence. And so
Yeah.
it was just my whole birthing, just the whole process while I was pregnant, after I was pregnant, Shonda was there for us. Like she just, like she said, mediating, just trying to teach
Mhm.
him, trying to teach me because I was big on I just want to know. Like I just need the knowledge as far as that goes. Cause baby, I have like so many nephews and a niece. So I'm just like, okay, baby, I can do that. But I need to know like what is pregnancy and like what are my rights, and just being able to advocate for myself was like a big thing for me. And then the same thing as far as my husband goes, just trying to educate him because I don't want to educate him and he just kind of like, all right, whatever you say. But whatever it comes from someone who knows this stuff, who's a professional, men tend to usually listen more. And so it was just really amazing. And she had so much knowledge, and she was like, if I don't know, I'm gonna get the answer to you. Or if it was just a question that she couldn't answer, she like, well, ask your doctor or something like that. And so it just really helped because she was there. She was like, you can text me at 1 a.m. and I'll get to you whenever I wake up. And so it was just really that around the clock care. Like she said she's only on call like towards the end of your pregnancy, but she's on call like once you tell her, ask her, could she be your doula? She's like, all right, starting now before you even start signing the contract. So it was just really, really beautiful for me because I just really had no knowledge as far as pregnancy goes, besides the fact of, okay, you get pregnant and then you push out a baby. That's literally all I was thinking about. But she really gave me the ins and out and just the knowledge, and definitely helped my little family here.
That's beautiful. Trina says yes. That's such a good point. Amen. Yeah, I would have to agree with the lack of knowledge, especially. And I'm going to go ahead and go there. There's some things that there was an article a white woman wrote who is a social worker who talked about the disparities between Black women and white women. And obviously, this is a white woman writing an article, but she made some good points about, you have to take in the point that there's just certain things that are not community driven. And when you think about where way back in the day in Africa, midwives were huge. That's what they had. It wasn't, that's who's helping give birth in the babies, the elders and the older Black women, and they come in as a village support. And so when I hear you say that Shonda's around the clock and she was accessible and she was doing all of these things, that's what it was. It was this village helping during the process. And what we know now, especially as it relates to maternal mental health, is up to 2 to 3 years postpartum that bodies and minds are getting back regulated. And so I love the front work that Shonda does. And when I say that is because when you think about, like you said, what was okay and encouraging and helpful before before go time, I don't want to hear it.
Yes.
That front work has to happen because in the state of stress. So.
And see, one thing that was really big for me was her being able to trust herself, but to be vocal. Let us know what you need. And then my thing for him was make sure we listen. Listen not only for cues and things that she says, but we got to watch too for little instances where we notice stress and we notice tension. I could see when a contraction would start to build without even looking at the monitor because I had already noticed her expression of discomfort. And us being able to listen to her and provide her what she needed helped her have the birthing experience that she wanted. Because essentially that's what it's all about for me is, of course, ultimate goal, happy mommy, happy baby, healthy baby. But also getting as close to the experience, not so much that you expect it, but that you are comfortable with, that you can look back and say, yeah, that hurt, but I'm glad I did it that way, or I'm excited when I talk about my experience, or I'm happy that my experience was like that. And so, yeah, we definitely. I was like, she said, "Be quiet, be quiet. We're gonna be quiet."
Yes. And I know that to be true because when I talk about that, what I'm gathering from now being close to Shonda and hearing from other doulas and TT Anderson, she's also a doula who's on, is it's about relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because let me tell you, that little sweet Renisha face that y'all see right now, I seen her. Okay, she didn't mind telling Miss Shawn, okay, all right, and not taking offense or
Right.
defending it. It was a matter of, I hear her right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important. So Nita, if I'm saying that wrong, forgive me. How can we improve the relationship between doulas and providers who don't respond well to them in their spaces? Ooh, that's a good
So my approach is to always tell my clients to let their provider know that they have a doula. This way we can kind of gauge their attitude towards doulas in the beginning. But when I come into a hospital room, I greet the staff. I ask if there's any way I can help them. And so you have to approach it with humility. Um, because I always say that we're not on opposite ends. We're supposed to be on the same team. And in that moment, that team is that client, it's that patient. They're a different title for each of us, but it's the same person. It's the same birth. It's the same family. It's the same baby. And so I go in first, I go in with prayer. We're gonna pray over the room for sure.
Amen.
The room, the equipment, the client, whatever. We're going deep. But also just letting them know, like, hey, this is my card. I go in with my business cards. I have a badge. I have a shirt that signifies that I'm a doula. I try not to look and dress like medical staff, so I tend to not wear scrubs because I'm not trying to be them. I'm not trying to overstep my boundaries or go outside of my scope. I'm the doula. I'm the support person for my client. You're the medical staff. You're handling your portion of it. Communicating with them and asking questions, um, not dumbing yourself down, but just being able to reiterate what they're saying so that they know that you're listening, you're a part of this experience,
Mhm.
and basically you're not going nowhere.
That part. Yeah. Rainisha, did you feel like you were pulled between provider and doula at any time?
So actually I had like two different providers. So initially, because I'm in the military, I had to be seen on the military base. So I had to go to the OBGYN on the base. However, both doctors, I seen them once and then they were deployed my
Mm.
whole pregnancy. And so like I was like, I don't like this because I had to see the physician's assistant for 15 minutes and she wasn't answering my questions, and all of my any questions that I would have had outside of the hours, like between 8 and 5 or whatever, she said, "Oh, you have to call Aventis Health or whatever, the hospital there, and they'll answer you, but you'll have to go in." So I'm just like, if I have to do all that, I might as well not even be seeing y'all. So I had
Mm.
to put in a request to actually get seen somewhere else. So I end up getting a new provider, a new doctor in Visalia, and that doctor there, I had told him like, "Hey, like I have a doula." He was really awesome, very good through and through my whole pregnancy, and he was just really open. So I never felt that pull between doula and pull between provider. It was always like he understood that they were both on the same team. As long as the hospital would approve of them to my doula to be there because of COVID, he was fine with it.
Yeah, I think that's important. And that kind of brings us back to the earlier conversation about relationships and knowing your client, you know, especially when you're talking about African American mamas with the statistics and the rates, to know pain tolerance, to know if someone is just arbitrarily asking for medication, if they are in extreme pain. And you had mentioned a couple of people that had some experiences that we can Google, right? Is to show that it's not about income, it's not about education.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Not Dr. Judge Hatchett Judge Hatchett,
Yep.
the TD, her daughter-in-law, 12 hours later, no one immediately attended to her hemorrhaging, and she eventually hemorrhaged out. And these are statistics and things to scare people, but these are things that we need to be made aware of, which is even more reason that we need to be our biggest advocates, especially if you don't have access to, say, a doula or a midwife. Are cultural or religious views casual in the bigger picture? Casio. I don't know. I want to make sure that we're answering the question correctly. So,
Yeah.
can cultural and religious beliefs be part of the bigger picture of maybe getting a doula, or why African Americans are not heard? So, if you want to clarify, Mr. Sanchez, we would love to hear from you. So, while we're waiting on clarification, is it common for doulas to support women who are preparing for pregnancy? If not,
Yes.
is this something that I think would benefit from the Black birth statistics? Would this be something that could be a benefit? So if someone's just having an idea of thinking about getting pregnant, how can doulas be a support there?
So there's actually a doula for almost every stage of life. There's fertility doulas. There are doulas that specialize in mothers who are experiencing abortions. There are death doulas. So there's doulas for just about every stage of life. And I do recommend that if that is something that someone is interested in, to definitely look into it, because just from my perspective as a labor and postpartum doula, I'm always gathering information, always gathering resources geared towards what type of audience I'm trying to support.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there is someone near you who is a fertility doula, even though you may not have fertility issues, this is still a aspect of um, being a fertility doula, is just supporting someone in their efforts to become parents and get pregnant. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there
I love
are.
that. I love that question. Thank you, Kindlin. And I would just add why I think, um, and I'm sure Shonda can definitely jump on this about that being a benefit to the Black birth statistics, is because we can get some upfront information.
Mhm.
Shonda and we do a trauma informed care, and we start in the early stages. And one of the questions that Shonda asked is, what was your situation pre pregnancy?
Mhm.
And when you think about that, I remember with my first one is my mom was sick and she was dying. That she was on oxygen, and we lived with her because it was fairly shortly after my stepfather took his own life. He died by suicide. So when you think about the atmosphere that my first pregnancy was, that was pretty stressful. And it wasn't until Shonda asked the question, it wasn't that long ago, that I had to reflect and think about that.
Mhm.
Right. That was my atmosphere. So you're talking about bringing in and birthing, having a pregnancy experience through trauma on top of my own unhealed things. And so even as a licensed therapist, right? Therapist, see therapist, doctors see doctors. So there is no shame here. We want to normalize mental health for all. And when you think about that, so you think about somebody wanting to get pregnant, I would
Mhm.
imagine whether it's a doula, um, or a therapist, or a doula referring to a therapist, once they just kind of get some background work about what they could work on pre-pregnancy.
Not just the mental aspect of it, because remember, I'm a big advocate for wellness
Mhm.
all the way around. So if you look
Mhm.
at the physical aspect of it, birth control is pushed heavily towards the Black community.
Mhm.
And so what they don't often talk about is the challenges that some people face because of the effects of birth control. You have people who uh, have severe, what we would consider um, forever damage to their reproductive system because they um, took birth control for as long as they did. People think and are taught that once you stop taking it, it's done. But your body naturally wants to do this thing a certain way, and you're and no knock on birth control is for some people it's not. But your body wants to do this naturally, and we create this system for whatever reason, for control, for health issues, uh, and it it goes against what your body's trying to naturally do. And
Mhm.
so once that element is removed, that doesn't mean your body just goes back to its natural thing. It's still trying to figure things out. And so there are people who legit have issues because of birth control, whereas it's often advertised as, oh, it's going to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harmful. And so because it's so heavily pushed into the Black community and just encouraged, um, there are women who suffer with issues because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that's a whole nother segment, y'all. I don't
Hmm.
think because and even hearing that, it makes me think of the obesity rate within most African American women, and they
Yes.
are often told that lose weight before you can get pregnant, which I wouldn't say across the board that could be helpful, but that doesn't mean that you can't. And so, if you hear that, you kind of have this thought process that I won't be able to, and not everybody gets pregnant fast or right away. So let me get to some comments really quick. Nidia agreed. Thank you. And yes, supporting from UCSF here in San Francisco. Nidia, thank you for being on. We actually had Dr. Daniele, the cardiovascular doctor, on the Black Moms Matter initiative that we did early in the year. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she was a great resource. Of course, she was not there representing African American females, but she did speak to some of the disparities.
Mhm.
Matios, my sister has a problem with that. She says, Shonda, can you help my sister get pregnant? She has no man. She used the sperm bank. There's no Black men in Denmark with high degree like her. Plus, she will downgrade to African American males who worship white Danish girls. Woo,
Ooh,
Matios, that's a
listen.
whole nother Oprah show. But I'm
I
gonna let
don't even think
Shonda
that's
answer that.
Oprah. I
Let
don't
me
even think that's Oprah. I think that's probably a little bit of Maury. But
Yes, but I will speak to that, and I wish a friend of mine was on who had to use the same route, and
mhm.
she actually preferred a German sperm donor, and she did have her baby, and God bless him because he's like 7 or 8. So there are people out there being able to do that. If she is seeking an African American male, I think she may have to be willing to go outside of her area for sure. Um, does Shonda desire to do postpartum doula services in the near future?
Oh, I do postpartum services now. I've always done both labor and postpartum. One thing I will say though is my support is more so to teach skills so that moms and dads are able to care for their child on their own. I don't come in and care for the child at night. That's more of a night nurse or a nanny. Some postpartum doulas do include those services in their contracts. I don't. Just same way with pregnancy and labor and delivery. My idea of supporting you is educating you, and so that you're able to do these things when I'm not there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Um, Renisha, what do you think it was like the top biggest thing that helped you during your pregnancy experience with using a doula that you just don't get from a provider, recognizing their limitations as well?
I think for me, it was the knowledge. It was just really learning how to advocate for myself, knowing the questions, understanding what Pitocin is. I don't even know what that is. Like just
Mhm.
knowing all of these medications, knowing the questions really to ask. That's what helped me during my pregnancy because especially like whenever it came down to labor, because like it was you change nurses so many times throughout the night because I was in labor for like 36 hours. I did like 12 hours at home and then I did like 24 in the hospital just about and I saw about like 4 different nurses and each nurse is really different. So also having my birth plan too. So just knowing about that, which I wouldn't have even known if I didn't have a doula, and knowing what a birth plan is and stuff like that. And so like that really helped me because like I had one nurse, first nurse I had, she was black. She was the only black person I ever saw. And that was the last one, first and last. Didn't even see a black custodian. So it was just the first one. She was just really like team mom, team me, like really just pushing for me to have my baby do it the way that I wanted to do it on my birth plan. Next nurse, she came in with like a trainee. First of all, we ain't training over here. I'm giving real birth, so I need somebody without a little sidekick. So that was me. And so like she didn't like that because she was just explaining everything to the trainee, but not even explaining it to me and just not really paying attention to me. So it's like, if you too preoccupied, I need somebody else. And that's literally what I had to tell them. And it was just so bad to where I didn't even know who she was. And she came in like, oh, so I hear you need a new nurse. I'm thinking it's somebody else. I'm like, yes, I do not like the one that I have right now. Not realizing that that is her that I'm talking to. But she's like, excuse me, I have a blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, anyways, I need somebody new. And so another head nurse came in like, oh, I just love her. I don't see why you want to do it. Okay, that's cool and all, but I still need a new nurse. And finally, I got my new nurse because they weren't going to stop hearing me say I need a new nurse until I got a new nurse. And so it was just like went from that to like, you know, the next person not really reading my birth plan and all this stuff. Because I'm like, did you even read that? Because you're bringing Pitocin, and I still have on this little list, like, I don't want Pitocin at all. And so it was just like, okay, well, I need to go talk to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, that's cool, but I don't want that. So it doesn't really matter. And so, yeah, it was just really being able to advocate for myself and just knowing the questions to ask that really helped my pregnancy. Because otherwise, if I didn't have Shonda or if I didn't know those questions, I really wouldn't have had the birth the way that I would have wanted to have it.
Whew, that's so good, y'all. Let me tell you, because I didn't know about Nene. And nobody was telling me about plans. No one was educating me about Pitocin, even though I knew a little. I didn't know the side effects. I didn't know how it slows down things, even though it's supposed to speed it up. I mean, I truly did not know. And I didn't know that I had a voice. And I think that is one of the biggest elements when we talk about Black maternal health, because we've been told our voice means angry Black woman.
Yes.
Or we're aggressive, or we're just trying to get our way, or we're mad or upset. And, you know, that language has to change, because we should be able to advocate and be heard without coming off and being deemed as aggressive or angry Black woman. And it truly is advocacy. It truly is being passionate about your birthing experience and being qualified to be the expert about your birthing experience. Got it. We're not the doctor and delivering, but we do know what we're feeling and what we desire. And when we can have a person to inspire and empower us to use our voice, that's beautiful.
Yes.
How can moms of preterm babies benefit from having postpartum doula support if she has to leave her baby in the NICU and go home without them? Oof. How can that support? Anybody want to talk about that?
I'll speak on that. But I'm not gonna like really answer that question in the sense of like going home. But for me, so after I gave birth to my baby, she was on me, she was latching, she was breastfeeding, and then like 30, maybe 20 minutes later, she just kind of like, apparently a nurse came in and said like her body's just limp, and so they had to start doing chest compressions for her in front of me, and that was just like, I don't even know where Shonda went at this time, because she was in the delivery room with me, and this was in the delivery room. But once the chest compression started, I don't even know where Shonda went. Like I said, but they did the chest compressions. Then, you know, Nova was fine. Like a few moments later, but those 10 seconds or however long felt like eternity for me. Like I just could not stop crying. Like thankfully, you know, my husband is there, but like I'm literally looking at her across from me. After just only having her for about 20 minutes, not knowing what was going to happen. And from there, they took Nova and my husband to the NICU, which was 3 floors up above from where I was. And after you have a birth and have a baby, you in a lot of pain. Like you can't walk, you can't do all this stuff that you want to do. So they were separated from me for about 2 whole days, and I was in the mommy room or whatever, trying to recover while also trying to visit them and see them like every few hours. But I had to be back to get my vitals done, and every time I had to go back down to the room I was in to get my vitals checked, they were doing the like skin to skin time with her, so I was missing out a lot. And Shonda was there. She wasn't there physically with me, but to be able to just call her during that time or just text her and just really cry. I did a lot of crying and I did a lot of praying, and I really felt like I was really just losing my mind. So your doula can help out so much, because I don't even know what I would have done if it was just me having to do it by myself. Even though having my husband was great, it's just way different having my doula there. So I would just say that it is a big benefit to have, especially if you're going home without your baby, because I know like whenever I was just downstairs and my husband's upstairs, I'm wondering what tests they're doing on her, if she's okay, if she's crying and things like that. So imagine being in a whole different city, wherever, where you're at one place and your baby's in a whole nother place. Yeah, a doula can definitely help you and really reassure you, and just, just also continue to help you advocate for yourself.
I'm going to swing back up to break that down in a minute, but I want Shonda to answer the question about how can moms of preterm babies benefit from having postpartum doula support if she has to leave the baby at the NICU and go home without him.
So again, essentially we're there to support mom. And so in order to support mom, we have to support her in all aspects. So if a mom is home, preemie babies in NICU, mom's going through emotional things, she still needs that support. She needs the tools to be able to help her possibly pump and produce milk so that she can bring and give to baby if that's the route she's taking. She still needs education on what to expect when baby gets home, things she can do to prepare for that still, trying to create a more positive atmosphere for mom, because family and friends have the best intentions, but a lot of times they're not very helpful. And it's no fault of their own. It's just the way we go about things. We think we're helping and we're not. So family and friends may want to come over and sit with you, and they're like, "Oh, are you okay? How's the baby doing? Have you called to check on the baby today? When are they coming home?" Those are thoughts that you're already having, and you're dreading this current situation, and you're now. And so a doula may redirect your thoughts to, okay, is this how you want the nursery? You said you were talking about painting. You aren't in the condition to do that just yet, but have you looked at some local painters, or do you know somebody who can? Have you had meals prepped already? Who's going to be fixing you dinner today? Sometimes I know for me, I include meals in my postpartum sessions. So your doula may bring you meals.
Come on.
You may need help with lactation. If your doula has had training in that, she can assist with getting you set up with your pump and how much milk to store and proper storing techniques, and just informing you and educating you on how much milk your baby will drink, and all these little things that we don't think of until we have that question, or until the thought comes up, or until it's presented in front of us. And so the expertise of a doula is just, it stretches far and wide. We're not regulated as of yet. We're not regulated by the state or the government, but because we're not regulated, that allows us to stretch our services and provide so much more, and not be restricted to, oh, you have to do this in this spectrum, on this scale, with this information from this book. Like, we can reach far and wide, and whatever you need, whatever fits and works for you, definitely individualized care.
I want to do over. Oh, sorry. So hopefully, Nidia, that answered your question. It sounds like how can a doula support is to support mom on various aspects, down to meal prep. Listen, is it too late? And getting mom prepared for going home, because that I think that's the biggest thing for me is like the encouragement. You will eventually be with baby. Right, baby is coming home, and obviously every circumstance I would imagine is different, and every situation is different. But it is really looking like being there, and I love the story that Renisha shared about her experience. So thank you for sharing that. That's my first time hearing it. Not that I was supposed to be in your beeswax, but she gave
And
us a little of her beeswax.
And what's funny is Renisha had a awesome birth, and Nova was latching, and I was taking pictures. It was just so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, the nurse is like, we're gonna move them in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, y'all, she's latching, you're resting, dad's excited. I'm gonna let y'all have your moment. Because again, I believe that circle is sacred. And so I'm like, but I'm asking myself, how can I still be of help if they're good? Oh, I can go get y'all food. I left to go get food, and I got from Mineral King, from the hospital to Olive Garden, and they were calling saying something's wrong. We need you to come back. And it was Joshua. He was saying Renisha's by herself. I'm going up here with Nova, and I'm just like, wait, what? Huh? What? I didn't even get to go pick up his food. I got upstairs with Renisha's food, and the nursing staff said, no, she has a support person. We only allow the doula in the labor and delivery area. And my thought, and I said it to the nurse, and I tried to not, because again, I try not to be combative with the medical staff. And my statement was, dad is with baby. Who is with mom? Dad is a part of this experience too. See, dad is always looked at as the support person. He's going through this too. He feels things too. He's experiencing things too. And so right now he is the, might as well say, overseer or caretaker for baby, decision maker for baby while baby's in NICU. Who is with mom?
Yeah.
She has nurses that she does not have a relationship with, that she's not connected with, that are not going to stay in her room. She is essentially by herself. And she's just had this traumatic experience. She's by herself. Needless to say, they still didn't let me up. They understood my point, but they took her food for me. So
yes. I think Khadijah Kennedy is trying to find her education requirements to only be met overnight. Okay. And Angelique says, good points. I advocated and was able to stay with my child. She was 34 weeks. It's essential to have the information from them, and we are the voice for ourselves, but for our children. She absolutely loves this, and she wished every hospital had this. I had one in Hawaii. They were staff alongside my OB with physician assistant and my daughter's pediatrician. Is it like this in the States? It really helped. The emotional support was phenomenal. And speaking of that, it sounds like that was really essential for what Renisha went through, because here it is, her body's just went through trauma. Giving birth is traumatic, folks. Okay, you got a person coming out your body,
a
whole person with legs and toes, and some got teeth. I don't know about that, but I heard about it. Okay, we ain't here to break that down, but her body literally went through physical trauma, mental trauma, emotional, and then to have her baby so long expecting, and then to be taken away doing chest compressions. What was that experience like watching? And I hear you say I was crying and I was calling out and praying, but did that experience have any impact post, like afterwards or now even?
Yes, for me, it I haven't actually told anybody this story because of how traumatic it's been for me and how hard it was. Even just to talk about breastfeeding has been hard for me because they was giving her like formula and I was trying to pump. But of course, like whenever you first having a baby, you don't produce that much milk. And so like even whenever it came down to like her latching, she would latch, but it's not coming out like this formula bottle was. So like after having her at home, she just wants the bottle basically. Like she wants to nurse, but because it's not coming out like the bottle, she's looking at me and she's fussing with me at 2 a.m. And mentally, because like I went through all of this trauma, that's just another thing on top of it that I just couldn't handle. And it really has like impacted me just as far as like wanting like to have another kid, which I don't right now. Like it would take several years, like 5+ maybe, if I was to even think about having a second one. But it's because it was just so traumatic for me that I don't think like mentally I want to put myself through that or even put my husband through that, because like I know that I wasn't where I needed to be mentally and emotionally for Nova or for Joshua. And it just that really also like was breaking me down in the process of already being broke down. And just, it was like a lot of internal battles because, spiritually, like I know a lot of, it's like whenever but your body just is not like responding to what it is that it's just like a constant battle that you're having every single day. And just getting up every day was just a battle. It wasn't like more so I had, postpartum depression. It was just like just that fight of like just fighting through those traumatic thoughts, fighting through just trying to just figure things out. And then like not only that, like understanding like my husband just went through a traumatic experience too. So now you got two people that's traumatized trying to take care of a baby who just got here, who probably traumatized from just being here. So we all traumatized trying to figure it out. And it really broke me down. And definitely like I'm building myself up now, going to therapy and different things like that. But it really broke me down, broke my marriage down, broke my relationship possibly with my daughter down, my spiritual relationship with God, broke that down. Things are, becoming anew, but it just was I just don't know how else to say, but it was just extremely traumatic. And we were only in the hospital for 4 days, but so I can only imagine the women and the people who are there for weeks and different things like that. But it was just so hard. And it's still, hard to even, like I said, to even talk about breastfeeding now, like to this day, it just makes me overly emotional because that's something that I wanted to do with my daughter. That's something that I want to be connected with. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, girl, you just so lucky," or "Oh, girl," and so many people, they don't mind asking you the question like, "Oh, so do you breastfeed?" But like to me, like that's just a jab like to my heart every time somebody asks me that. And I've had several people ask me that, and without even it's just like a normal question to them. But for me, that's just so hard, and it just brings up that trauma for me, and that's something that I will have to work through. But it's just been so many different things that people have been able to just say that might just be like, not, they're not really thinking like, oh, I'm intending to hurt you. It's just a question to them. But to me, it's just like, it brings me back to that place. So it's just really learning to just heal right now.
Renisha just preached a whole sermon for y'all. A whole sermon, sis. You did that because you just freed some folks. Even Angela, exactly. While you're really speaking on the mental part, Nidia, I agree. I had a preemie and traumatic pregnancy. It made me never want to do it again. It sucks because my partner wants to, but it was just too hard for me, right? You feel like you're separated. Where's the bonding? Wow, the anguish is real. So you're speaking to what a lot of women may have experienced, and there's such a mental and emotional piece to it, which you identify. It was like spiritual breakdown as well. The beautiful thing I held on to is things are being made new, and I thank God for that because the interesting thing about trauma is it gets stuck sometimes in that middle part of our brain and in our bodies. And so whenever you have now this association, such as breastfeeding or giving birth, it's now associated with anxiety and worry. And so as you are building new and getting built back up, you can kind of like start changing the thoughts around that. And I did hear you say you're going to therapy. So absolutely. Thank you for, I'll call it a plug, but it's not for me. It's just normalizing mental health.
Yes.
If you are dealing with something, just as if somebody, first of all, somebody shot everybody in the tummy right now, we all go to the emergency room.
Yep.
Okay. Some of y'all going because your tooth hurt.
Yes.
Why would you go? Because your thoughts are getting in the way with your best self. And so I love that you mentioned, here I have me went through a traumatic event. My husband, yes, folks, if your partner is involved, and even if it's not your partner, it may be someone who you're very connected to, because trauma sometimes etches people out. So then you're in isolation because you feel like you don't want to burden anybody, or I don't want to tell anybody, I don't want to share. And I just heard her say, this is my first time even sharing this or being out loud with it, because, there may be guilt attached, shame, we don't know what people are going through. And so I'm just so thankful for you sharing. Yes, thank you for sharing exactly mental health. I think it is so important. So just like the doula can be there for the support for however long the contract is. And I'm hearing Shonda's like, okay, the contract's not. We need addendums. My sis need addendums and attachments. Okay, exhibit B, C, D, E, and F. And we thank God for people like that, because she may be the front line person before mental health even comes in. Because especially when we're talking about the BIPOC community, Shonda broke that down, Black, Indigenous, people of color, that's not our typical go-to. And because it's not, we have our people, and I'm talking men and women, suffering in silence, suffering by themselves, suffering in shame and guilt, when we can actually be the first step to healing. And so thank you for sharing that story. If you have any more questions, put in the chat. We only have a few more minutes because we can go on and on. Maybe we'll check back in with Renisha and Shonda in about 6 months when that baby sweep it. Listen, y'all, that chocolate drop, I'm gonna eat the baby because she's so cute. And so it is an experience. We know it does not end 6 weeks after Renisha is here. She came out the gates with that. Okay. So 6 months from now, we can expect things to be different and different. We don't know what different looks like, and everybody is different. And so everybody's experience is different. But I want to end with last words from Shonda about why should someone consider a doula? And then I'm going to shoot that up to Renisha.
Because you can never have enough support. We don't as people, we like to think we know it all, but we don't know it all. And so there may be that one little nugget, that one little gem that a doula can provide to you as far as information or support or advocacy, the ways that you can advocate for yourself. So yeah, definitely consider it.
That's beautiful. If someone wanted Miss Shonda as a doula, do you work virtually? And I know in person, but what is your status virtually?
I have worked virtually. The pandemic let us know real quick what we were and were not capable of. That physical distance was not a barrier. So I have worked virtually. I am willing to work virtually with people and get connected if you need to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, TT. Yes, thank you. She said it was amazing. Y'all hitting topics and beautiful. And, maybe that 6-month update, we can get you on here to kind of give some feedback. That'd be awesome. Renisha, what would you tell people about if they were considering a doula, why they should?
I feel like she said, you can never have too much support, but especially for me being in the military, I don't have any family here. I have family in Louisiana, but even then, the females in my family, they don't really discuss like their pregnancies and stuff like that. But I'm here in the state by myself, surrounded by my husband and his family and friends like that. So initially, I'm kind of by myself. And so it's just really having that support. You can just never have enough support, and just really knowing how to advocate for yourself, knowing the questions and getting all of the knowledge you need outside of just trying to Google things. So
I agree. And I just want to thank the ladies for being on today. I think in light of Black Maternal Health Week, I mean, every week, right? We Black Air Week.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I may not be, listen, but these are concerns. And I think the more we have these kind of conversations about experiences and what we know to be helpful, such as doula, support, and the experience and the education and helping, and let's not let in-person stop us. So if you are interested in having Shonda as your doula plug, then reach out. You're welcome. Teresa, thank you for sharing. And if you want to have any comments, any feedback, or anything for Rainisha, I'm sure just knowing her that she definitely would answer that, assuming it's appropriate to answer. And if you would like to be on FIT Chat Chit Chat and you have a story that you want to share and you're open and willing, it doesn't matter what it is, let's talk about it. You can find me at fitchatchitchat@gmail.com. Find me on all social media platforms at Fit Therapist. And Shonda, can you put your information in there if you have access to? Otherwise, we'll have her put it in the YouTube and the Facebook chat afterwards.
Yeah, I'll put it in the YouTube and Facebook.
Perfect. And I'm going to leave a resource that I found about those who do not have a doula, but have a pregnancy and or thinking about being pregnant, some questions and some things that you can ask your provider, assuming where you're at, there's not a doula and you don't have an opportunity to reach out or get to one. Here's some things that you can ask. And I wish I would have known, but this wish didn't come true. And Shonda saying she can't do it over because I just want the perks of the postpartum. Like I want the food prep to come over and paint my house. But I am thankful for these ladies and their time. I thank you all for joining us and for giving your questions, your comments, your feedback. We love you. God bless you. And we will see you next Fit Chat. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.